everybody? So we've got a fun review today as we're talking Evil Dead Rise, the latest entry in the Evil Dead franchise. And as a huge fan of the Evil Dead franchise, I have been so hyped about this film, from the brutal promotional material to the fact this is getting a theatrical release as opposed to it being released on HBO Max. I've genuinely missed this franchise. It's been a very long time since we had anything Evil Dead related. Even the show, Ash vs. Evil Dead, ended 5 years ago. The remake of Evil Dead came out a decade ago. So I was keen to get some new Evil Dead in my life, especially as it seemed like with this entry we're going to be expanding the universe into exciting new territories we haven't seen before. Evil Dead Rise follows two estranged sisters whose reunion is cut short by the discovery of a mysterious book that gives rise to flesh-possessing demons that thrusts them into a battle for survival inside of their LA apartment. When it comes to the genre of horror, I'm sure a lot of horror fans can relate to this actually. It takes a lot to get under my skin or genuinely scare me or creep me out, but I can happily say that Evil Dead Rise accomplishes that wholeheartedly. And I loved every single moment of this film. It's just a pure onslaught of blood-soaked, brutal mayhem. Right from the very beginning of the film, it sets the tone for a roller coaster ride of gore-filled terror with this nasty opening kill. Then once we set up everything in the first 20 minutes or so, everything else, it's just never relenting as far as the carnage is concerned. The creative execution of all this pulse-pounding, terrifying sequences of terror all throughout Evil Dead Rise are equal parts awesome and equal parts nasty, but I mean nasty in the best way possible. The Evil Dead franchise has never been a franchise for the squeamish folk, but the execution of the practical effects in this are some of the most gross looking visuals I think in the entire franchise. Or at least on par with some of the gruesome visuals of earlier films. You have glass shards poking through skin, blood-filled elevators, all of the different Deadite action, scalpings, and the traumatic use of a cheese grater, which we knew was coming from the promotional material, but seeing that full scene executed in the film, just horrifying, traumatizing. Essentially what I'm saying is, if you're a gorehound, I think you're going to have an absolute blast with this film, and if you're squeamish, don't watch it. Just avoid the film altogether. Tonally, I would say Evil Dead Rise kind of finds a happy middle ground between the visceral brutality of the 2013 Evil Dead by Fede Alvarez and some of the more dark comedy aspects of the Raimi films. Since even though this is going for a much more serious, darker tone than some of Raimi's films, there is that comedic edge here that leans a bit darker, which I had a lot of fun with. Another really fun aspect to Evil Dead Rise is the change in location. Most of the time in the Evil Dead franchise, it's a cabin in the woods style setting other than Army of Darkness, but now we're setting everything inside of a high-rise apartment complex. This apartment complex location I think is utilized perfectly because of the way that it amplifies so many sequences. The claustrophobia really sets in, having these characters confined to this building and trying any way they can to survive against the Deadites, and they even make use of the apartment for some intense, creepy sequences, one of them being a conversation between a peephole, which made my skin crawl at least. There's also just an entertainment factor as a longtime Evil Dead fan, how this Necronomicon and all this stuff would work inside of a building, as opposed to there being tree branches keeping everything at bay. It's exposed wires. What helps cement Evil Dead Rise, I think, as far as creepiness level goes, is the direction. I think the direction in this by Lee Cronin is exceptional. You may have seen his previous work before. He did The Hole in the Ground, an A24 film. If you enjoy his direction in this, I recommend checking it out. But you can tell that Lee Cronin has so much admiration for the Evil Dead franchise due to his attention to detail and the way that he drops so many different Easter eggs for fans like us to pick up on. His direction in general is just impressive, with the creative way he shoots certain sequences using a variety of different camera tricks, some of which that are definitely an homage to techniques used in the Raimi films, but there are some other ones too that kind of give Lee Cronin's direction its own distinctive, unique style. As amazing as it is watching all the carnage unfold in Evil Dead Rise, what really bolsters Evil Dead Rise, I think, is a really great ensemble cast. All of this ensemble is pretty solid, but I do think the two major standouts amongst the cast are the two co-leads, Alyssa Sutherland and Lily Sullivan, who both give amazing but extremely different type of performances, given one of them is possessed for the majority of the film. Before this film, I was not familiar with Alyssa Sutherland's work as an actress, but after seeing her portrayal as Ellie in this, I'm obsessed. She is so terrifying and just kills this role. It's such a type of role with so many nuances to it, visually, and also just her behavior. She's just so creepy and manipulative with all of these different characters and the lines of dialogue that she says to these people, and it does lend itself to the dark humor that I was referencing earlier. Plus, there's a lot of physicality to her role too. She's running around doing crazy stuff. She's yelling at the top of her lungs. It's intense. Not to be overshadowed though, Lily Sullivan's character Beth also is a very awesome character with tons and tons of charisma of her own, filling the strong, badass heroic character archetype perfectly, I was cheering her on as things got more and more bloody and crazy in the third act. The story outside of all of the stuff involving the Deadites, I think is surprisingly heartfelt with the way that it explores themes of motherhood and femininity. I don't think it was explored as well as I wanted it to by the movie's end, but there's at least some development there that I thought was pretty good. It just didn't completely stick the landing. If the film's runtime went a little bit longer, I think we could have explored different things more, but I think the runtime here is perfect. It's tight. There's next to no fat on this movie whatsoever. Everything is set up within the first 20 minutes or so, and then it's just a wild, crazy, bloody ride all the way to the insane third act with an exciting new creature of sorts that's so demented that I don't want to talk about it too much. You just have to see it to believe it, but it's one of the coolest things I've seen in the Evil Dead franchise so far. But all in all, I had an absolute blast with Evil Dead Rise. It gave me everything that I wanted and more out of a new Evil Dead installment. It's fresh, it's unique, and it definitely delivers on all the stuff you love from the franchise, but also steers things into some intriguing new directions, which has me fascinated at least on where we're going to go with the future of the franchise. It's crazy to me still that at one point in time this is going to be an HBO Max exclusive film. Warner Bros. Discovery has not been making the best decisions lately. A lot of their films have not been doing all that well, but I think out of a lot of the films they've had coming out recently, this is going to be one of their strong performers. It might end up making more than Shazam! Fury of the Gods at this point. But now you've heard my thoughts on Evil Dead Rise. Make sure you share your thoughts down below. What did you think of the film once you get a chance to check it out? Did you like the film? Did you not like the film? Share all your thoughts in the comment section down below. It's part of the funness is having that conversation with you guys in the comment section. Thank you guys as always for the reviews. I always do appreciate it. Be sure to like on the video and also subscribe to the channel so we update reviews, reactions, unboxings, and more. Next time, see you guys later.